Ова сеќавање треба да се смета како почеток, а не како крај на нашата одговорност. Го повикувам председавачот на Американскиот Еврејски конгрес, рабинот Ендрју Бејкер, да ви се обрати со неговиот пригоден говор. Повелете.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, I have been here multiple times over the years. The day's routine is a well-established tradition. We walk to the Monopole Tobacco Factory, we lay a wreath, we travel to the cemetery, we say Kaddish, and we gather here in the evening with speeches and music and poetry. This day, as you all know, marks the 80th anniversary of those deportations that took place in March 1943. That was a fateful year. In January, a large majority of European Jews who would become the 6 million victims of the Holocaust were still alive. By December, the majority were already murdered. It was the most lethal year of the Jewish genocide. There was never any doubt that without Germany, without Hitler, without the Nazi regime, there would be no Holocaust. But without local collaborators and perpetrators, without the assistance of Nazi-allied governments, and if not for those neighbors who turned their backs, and the indifference of neutral and allied countries, surely many fewer Jews would have died. Dozens of countries now commemorate the Holocaust. Most do so on International Holocaust Remembrance Day, January 27th, the anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. It is more difficult and more challenging to do so on a date of local significance, especially when it reminds people of the crimes of their own ancestors, when it forces them to confront their own national failings. Though this has been difficult, we had once thought that the process would always move in a positive direction. It took decades for democratic states in Western Europe to acknowledge their own role in the Holocaust. By way of example, France and Austria only did so 50 years after the war had ended. Over 20 years ago, several former communist countries established international historical commissions to provide a critical account of that Holocaust history. They began the process, a process of correcting textbooks and removing the misplaced honors that had been accorded to fascist-era figures. In neighboring Bulgaria, a veil was lifted on two very different stories. There was the near miraculous rescue of 50,000 Jews through the active intervention of church leaders, of parliamentarians, of concerned neighbors. Meanwhile, in this land, occupied by Bulgaria, over 7,000 Jews were rounded up by Bulgarian police and deported to Treblinka. 15 years ago, a Bulgarian president could say, and I quote, "When we express justifiable pride at what we have done to save Jews, we do not forget that at the same time there was an anti-Semitic regime in Bulgaria, and we do not shirk our responsibility for the fate of more than 11,000 Jews who were deported from Thrace and Macedonia to death camps," end quote. This is no less true now than it was in 2008. But who will say it now? Before the fall of communism, there was ignorance and obfuscation. In much of Central and Eastern Europe, the truth of the Holocaust was not known. But that excuse is long past. Today, those who distort the history of the Holocaust, those who deny the Holocaust's true perpetrators, do so knowingly and willingly. They do it for political expediency, and they do it to hurt.